Good week, Shavua Tov to everybody. Trapeze with no one to look up to, or more, trap ease with no one to look up to. If you're trapped up high, good morning, welcome. Trapeze, my friend gave me a book called Learning to Fly. Welcome. My friend gave me a book called Learning to Fly. It's about a trapeze artist, a philosopher come trapeze artist. It's a lot like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, if you remember that book from your heyday. That was one of my first mind-opening books. Thank you. I know people that were very successful in life so far, at least in some spheres, fantastically successful. It's not necessarily that their parents pushed them to be a superhero. They could have had their own idea of, wow, I could just conquer the world. I think they did have parents that, of course, influenced, but it takes a certain pushing yourself. A lot of parents, I'm telling you, want their children to have a normal life. They do not want them to take risks. My friend just told me last night, I was celebrating my birthday a little bit with my friend David Ackerman. And he told me that my third son, Aaron, is such an exemplary person that's just mind open, ready to receive the world, just ready to go on a journey in life. And as a parent, I'm supposed to be programmed to say, that's really dangerous and bad. And he'll do crazy things. He'd want to go to Venezuela, I'm telling you. He's talked about that. My father thought he was nuts, completely crazy. And I'm glad that there's those voices also. I'm a bit irresponsible that way. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I don't think I could let you do that. But if he pushed it hard enough, he's a person that would go on adventures. He went to St. Bart's. I didn't know if he was a saint that I recognized, but some guy named Bart has an island. They closed it, so he had to leave. But he's just willing to be a shaliach on the front lines and on the waves, riding the waves. A beautiful environment. My adventures were always internal. I went to Banff, and I was more interested in the book I was reading at the time, even though Banff was probably the most beautiful sight I've ever seen. Thank you. Amen. Steve, thank you. So there's an adventure of life that, in this book that my friend gave me, is Learning to Fly. It speaks about one of the things. He teaches you lessons about life from his trapeze artist secrets. And one point where he was like not making this flip and getting caught at the right moment. And this trainer his guru asked him, where were you looking? And he was like, I'm looking at the guy's hands he says, don't look at his hands. Look up beyond him. You want to be able, good morning. You want to be able to soar in life. They call themselves flyers. Like the idea of trapeze artistry is to actually emulate flying through the sky. So he's explaining that he couldn't make this certain trick and reach far enough. Where was he looking? He was looking at the guy's hands. Where's my safety net? Are you looking down at the safety net, Mr. Trapeze Artist? Flying on top of the world? Are you looking down at this? You might not make it if you're looking at that. The attitude has to be of looking upwards. My friend, I don't know if I should give his name. He's a pretty famous rabbi, a writer, a translator. He once complained to me, I have no one to look up to. And I thought that was a very lonely comment, especially speaking to his good friend, me. But I probably wasn't someone to look up to at that time. I was too busy looking up at other people. And you have to obviously have a master. Everyone has to have its higher source of teaching. Even the greatest master, their source of teaching is something that we don't understand. It's direct channels to wisdom. And they, of course, defer to their masters, their rebbes that existed in previous generations, like the predecessor. They would attribute, and the Rebbe does that. The Rebbe calls his father-in-law, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he calls him the Mashiach of the generation. He's everything and I'm nothing. I'm just the extension. So even a master has to have a master, obviously. So a trapeze artist, when you want to actually extend yourself further, don't look at your safety net. Don't look at the guy that's going to catch you. Throw yourself into it completely. Just look up. You don't have to be trapped in this idea of, wow, it's so dangerous soaring this high. When parents give their children the notion that I want to see you as a mild-mannered reporter, Clark Kent, I want to call you. I want to call my child Clark. When you tell them that, you are basically saying, don't ever get past where I did. That's what you're telling them. You want your children to exceed you. Your legacy has to be more dynamism. The Rebbe does not expect us to be much less now. On the contrary, the Rebbe expects us to step up to the plate and channel something a little greater. Telling our children that I believe in you. All your dreams, you want to be a fireman. You want to be an astronaut. They don't usually want to do that. They want to be a billionaire these days. That's much more creative. It occupies their fantasies more. I find that very, very sad. Because a person could simply devote all their time to making more money for no purpose at all. And that's typically what the case is. And look at the altered carbon, what way they point the elite, the super elite, when the rich get even richer and richer and richer, and they become, they don't think, they have articles about this, about the billionaires want to extend their life to 180 years of all numbers, the Yitzhak's life. The Rebbe speaks about this. That is the ideal lifespan, 180, like Yitzchak at Tzaddik. So do we tell our children that what they're learning in Tanya, that you are bad and you are tempted and you have to constantly push away something that's threatening, that we learned this morning in Tanya? Or yesterday. I don't think I did this morning's yet. Oh yes, I did. It's all about iskafia. Recognizing a threat and fighting it and turning away from it. That is the dominant identity of education in the spiritual world today. Chabad is very spiritual, but the way we look at it is often not through the leading eyes of the Rebbe, telling us to look upwards now. Someone quoted to me what the Rebbe Rashab said about davening, that most people have fantasies, vain fantasies when they're praying. The Rebbe never said that. This was 2 generations ago, talking to different people. We have way different problems now. Halavai, someone should have a fantasy of grandeur when he's davening. Maybe that would inspire him a little bit. We expect no inspiration from our children. We expect our children to defer and be solicitous sheep. I'm telling you, that's what we're teaching them. Sometimes we have very good programs like getting the children to do parties for the mushpoim, the people they reach out to. Having parties for them, they do tremendous work, and they also do publications. There are a lot of things that break the mold of what I'm saying. I'm talking about a more spiritual message that they teach them, because we learn it all the time. There's a progression of thought in Chabad itself. The Rebbe speaks about it at length. Chachma, Bina, Das, it goes through all the spheres. We're in Malchus now. Malchus is about telling the person on the front line, he is not a Clark Kent, he's Superman. He's got his tights and underwear on top of them, underneath his pants and his suit and his glasses. You have to tell your kid the dream that you have on these stupid games, Fortnite, that is you. You be that guy. You don't have to make an avatar and have a false life. People live through these lives through social media, and I'm the biggest advocate of social media you'll ever meet. I'll say if you're not on social media now, you're not a tzaddik. For sure not. And we need 36 now to step up to the plate and lead the Jewish people. We need, you know what? We need to, now I know this is a bit daring to say. We need the tzaddikim to reach out to the lesser tzaddikim and scout them out. In any single field, there's scouting. You have to find people that have qualities that this world needs now, and that is genuine, sincere, humble. Find a person like that. You'll never notice him on the throne already. For sure not. There's no kings surrounding him. So someone takes a discerning eye. There should be Lamed Vav looking, scouting out Jews, empowering them, telling them that they're on the front line, and I give you everything, because the Rebbe promises that the king takes out his treasuries to win the war. There's something higher than pleasure. I mean, it's radical to speak in our circles, even about focusing on pleasure. Okay? But there's something higher than that. There's victory. Victory requires the knowledge that your stick has all the 10 plagues in it, ready to bop King Tut on the head. And his big sea serpent. All at once. That is the message. People have been talking about me and saying that there's a... Just last night, can I say that it was my brother? I use the word disciple. I speak color. I have colored language when I speak. So I use the word disciple, but that's offensive to people. Why is it offensive? Because a little brother does not end up being a guru. A little brother is your little brother forever. Forever. You will never see Aaron. Look at Aaron. Look at his humility. Why did he get a breastplate on his heart? That's where all the prophecy comes through. Because his heart was pure. He saw the purpose in his younger brother. I love my brothers so much, trust me. This message is a nuance, it's a spiritual discussion. We have spiritual discussions with all the people around it, even if you're talking about sports, which everyone seems to be talking about today. There is a nun sharabina. There is a power that you are supposed to want to reach 50. It's the point where God says, you didn't get karas. I'm behind you. I'm not going to cut you off, because let's face it, anyone with a real mission should want their mission to fail if it's the wrong mission. Bittul means getting the right mission and going on the front lines and using everything, including your chup. Whatever it takes to makar of another yid, that's what the Lamed Vav do today. Don't break a halacha, grow your hair at chup. Tell me that you can't do it for a halachic reason. Your tefillin has to sit not on your mohawk. Can you imagine tefillin on a mohawk? I know a guy, I was friends with a guy who had a cemented mohawk with spikes. I loved freaky people because I always felt freaky. So I always wanted to meet a guy that's a little bit freakier than me. I was fascinated. I wanted to be close to these people. The headbangers in my junior high school, I wanted to be friends with them. I was made fun of because I was in a special program. So people, and my gym teacher overheard it. He was the teacher of the class, and he went crazy on the guy. We need an Xavier school for the gifted. We need to tell everybody that they're gifted. The tzaddikim have to say, I'm not keeping the glory for myself. It's not about my throne. I'm telling you, shuls look like a guy on a throne. Put your people on a throne. I mean, they do in terms of their devotion to their people, that's for sure. But psychologically, the nuance must be, you can do it, you're not. Trust me, I'm telling you, that Tanya's telling you that you're totally immersed in this world that's so terrifying. You have to put it through modern eyes, which say you are gold. That's what I want to write about today. Gold. It's the same idea of looking up. The whole thing with the Rebbe is simply, how do you identify the question about which washroom you're going to use in your malls is answered. Which identity? The Tanya starts with two souls. You gave me a split personality right from the beginning of your magnum opus, the Alter Rebbe. And how does it resolve? Which is the true identity after you take all of Chassidus, the 7 generations, and the Rebbe's teachings? What wins? Which are we? I'm telling you, the Rebbe wants us to see ourselves as superheroes on a front line. That is the image that the Rebbe is teaching you. There are meditations to go with this, one of which I taught on Friday. It was about joy, celebrating. It's all about physical health. I don't care if you tell me that the Rebbe didn't do 15 push-ups in the morning. It makes absolutely no difference. The teachings are meant to be abstract. They're meant to be adapted by the cultural milieu of the moment, of the time. They are meant to be interpreted through the most aware perspective. That perspective that takes past, present, and future all into one, that is the proper interpretation of the Rebbe's teachings or whatever teachings he was subscribed to. How you're supposed to implement it now. They're meant to be abstract because they're meant to teach us in the future, especially when the Rebbe said there might be a time where you're not going to hear from me for a while. You have to empower the people on the front lines with the knowledge that I'm giving you everything, the entire government's behind you. We're going to spend billions of dollars on warfare. Now the warfare is a peaceful war. All the resources in the world should be directed to empowering people that inspire others to want to do good. That the billionaires should want to give money to the people. That is what's heroic and majestic. It's it's not the communist thing. I'm never going to go there. Why? Because it can't be forced. It's meant to be forced. Mashiach is described as a Maishel, a ruler, someone who's dominant over the world, in the sense that he's that persuasive and convincing. That is his genius. That is his superpower, to tell people in ways that just make sense. It's the Apple promise that your products are just going to work. So you have an ideology that just makes sense. Good morning. Mashiach is when everything makes sense. The Rebbe says, the Mashiach comes on my birthday. Zach Shvat. That's what the Rebbe says here. You want me to read it to you? You don't believe me? I just go through this order. The last thing the Rebbe said on this parsha, I want to know. I'm 2 weeks in advance because I write about it in advance. On my birthday, the Rebbe focused about Zach Shvat. It's 2 nights from now. That's when Mashiach comes. It happened to be Zach Shvat, the 27th of Shvat, the purity of Shvat, the Rebbe called it. On the day when the Rebbe said that. The Rebbe empowers every single day is the greatest day of the year. Zach Shvat, whoever heard of a holiday on Zach Shvat? The Rebbe says Mashiach comes on that day. Happens to be my birthday. Which incidentally, the Hayom Yom, the daily teaching that is for my day, is like, it don't even want anything to do with any desires that comes from you at all. It's complete pushing away. It's the exact opposite of what I talk about. When I'm born, that was the idea. The Rebbe speaks about this Yud Aleph Nissan to Yud Aleph Shvat. There is a progression. I was born with something that was all about I had to break away from a lifestyle. I had to break away from it, and I completely changed my life like the biggest gung-ho green thumb around. And that was a good thing. But there's a progression, even if your beginning of your service is at one extreme. The whole point is that often you have to go to the other extreme. That's exactly what the difference between the 2 general phases of history has one that you have to push away evil because it's a temptation, and 2, which we're expecting to start now, the simple transformation and using all that energy for good. And Judaism is a very healthy religion that recognizes the natural human needs of a person. So it's not like asking so much. It's difficult if people are wired a bit opposite to what they're sort of expected, the majority. And therefore, some people have very difficult lives. So you have to be very sensitive to that. Because you're not on that front line. You have to be very sensitive. Nobody should rule for somebody that they don't really relate to. If you cannot relate to what that person would be going through, you have no business telling him what God wants of them. No business whatsoever. And until I find a rabbi that's like that, we're just totally falling in from the trapeze into the net, if that's the case. If we don't have rabbis that are sensitive to individuals, and you have agunas in today's modern times, they are backwards, old school, to the detriment, and it's completely against the Rebbe's way. I even showed you where the Rebbe talks about it. being matir agunis, looking for heterim, for agunis. That means they have to look. It's shameful. To me, it's absolutely shameful. I'm on the verge of an outright war against everything in the rabbinical world. And it's not like I think that I have the supporters. I don't. But I just think it's the right thing to do. I know people, I know myself also, but I know people that have gone through the same fate. So all spectrums are affected. The Baal Tshuwas, which is the majority of at least the Toronto Lubavitch community, they have no representation and no sensitivity to their life whatsoever. It's disgraceful. The Rebbe said Mashiach's going to come on the 27th of Shvat. Okay, I'll just read you the words just because that's very cool. Certainly now that we just blessed the month of... Here he's talking about in the month of Adar already. It's Zach Shvat. They were blessing the month of Adar, the coming month. So we don't have to wait for Nissan, where it talks about the redemption of the Jewish people happened. Pesach is a celebration of that and anticipation of a greater, more all-encompassing and permanent redemption. And you don't even have to wait to the month of Adar, which is now approaching. In that year they had two others. Because Mashiach came this Shabbos, he says, on the Shabbos that blesses the month, which we did this Shabbos, Chedesh Adar Rishon, the first of the month, and that year they had a leap year. At the end of the month of Shvat, Mashiach comes, Zach Shvat. Happens to be my birthday, so I thought that was really cool. Okay, I thought that was really cool. That's part of my for bringing for my birthday. If I don't want to forget that point. Okay, so I might say one or two more things and then go off to Devin. Unless you guys have questions. Here's something that fits in perfectly. I told you that the secret to everything is health. Here's an example of the Rebbe speaks about that and connects it with the type of divine service that I'm saying is the second stage that we're supposed to be occupied with now, which is pleasure in serving God. It's about complete transformation and just sort of, I want to say one more point about the trapeze artist. It's related to this. The whole idea of looking up, I sort of said this before, but he speaks about the ability to extend yourself further when you look upwards. When you're optimistic, it's just a normal, logical idea. That even if you're looking beyond, their safety net is not up. It's forward, but don't look forward because you need the extra push. If we're going to have phantasmas about ourselves, and even at risk of being, the Rebbe called himself crazy for Mashiach, even at risk of being classified by very lesser, very closed-minded people that don't have any idea of what you're about, to be classified and as if they can paskin on someone's character. It's absolutely absurd. So what is a healthy mindset in our times? The Rebbe discusses it in the context of what a healthy luck is, a healthy muzzle. It's not to be muzzled and silenced. Can I dare use the word disciple? Any makabel, do I have to use a Clark Kent language? Any person that you're influenced by, that you have influence upon, so in order to reach out further, to actually make it to the place that you have to get to, you sometimes have to set your sights higher. I'm trying to say the reason why I brought it up again is because I want you to think it as a visualization tool. Just simply to how to get the extra power in life. You have to, when you're davening, think that God's listening. If you don't think that, it will not work. You have to say there's nothing that God's doing more than simply listening to my heart crying out or whatever way it does to you, or singing poetry of joy to your maker. Isn't that what King David was doing? So if you have a healthy luck, what does health mean? Gleich rein geendig in dem Chedesh, right at the end of the month, afilu bli shum aveda mitzidoi, gleich rein geendig in dem Chedesh. I'm not sure what rein geendig means here. Ending in this month is their mazel mitzad atzmei bari. So here, you have a month that you don't have to try and transform. Remember, we spoke about the power of prayer and merit. Tefillah v'zchus, to change your luck. But there is a time of the year called Adar, which is now approaching, that is of itself healthy, which means that you have the natural powers of the world in your favor to make you succeed. That's what a healthy luck is at. Bari mazle. Afilu bli shum aveda. And this is the reason why it stood out at me. Because it was what I was talking about when it's not an effort, when it's not a struggle. That's the whole mystery of, if the Rebbe says Mashiach's here, why don't I feel it? I feel slothful and lazy and unable to inspire myself. But here we're talking about something that comes without any effort at all. Mitzidoi. That's the example that the month of Adar tells us, that there is such an inspiration that it's possible to receive. It's the flip side of the month of Av. It's meant to transform all the pain associated with all the other times of the year, which is the month of Av. So Adar, it represents the transformation of all that bitterness. Without any avodah is required. When you're healthy, it should go naturally. You should want to get out of bed. Is there mazal mitzad atzmai bari? Because the tendencies, the luck, the astrological reality of the month itself is healthy and therefore lends itself to success. Biz as afilu anitid der zet und der hert das, to the extent that every single person on the earth, doesn't matter if he's Jewish or not, recognizes that God has favor for the Jewish people, because in the core, a Jewish person is gold. If you don't see that, we have to sit on the sofa a little bit and have a conversation. You have to dig down. The Rebbe talks about it here. He says, Mitayf shalei lishma ba lishma. Mitayf, in the inner core of everything that's done for the wrong reasons, in its core is lishma, for the sake of the soul journey to get to the right place. It's always a good intention, the Rebbe says, of a Jew. That's the golden Jew. Here it is. Der Teich und Pnimis von der Aveda von den Afilu shalei lishma, even when a person's trying to advance himself in a way that's not for the right purpose. Tachteinim, that's the lower level, is lishma el yonim, is really that, and the inside of that is also for the sake of connecting with Besti, the Elyonim, the higher perspective, the true identity of a Jew, which is the Zahav. So you have a ruby in the dust. So that's basically the point. So the Rebbe calls that bittul. I've translated bittul as taking up a banner that's worthwhile, that's not just about you, but something that you think is bit beyond, pushes you to accept a higher good. It's not just about how many zeros at the end of your bank statement. But the Rebbe insists and speaks at tremendous length about how this has to be expressed not just as a spiritual idea, it has to be actually realized in the physical world, where every Jew is not just gold in some poetic sense, but rich in the simple sense. The Rebbe speaks about it at tremendous length. I don't even have time right now to go over all of that. How the most simple health, talking about health in the physical body, you cannot see, even if the Rebbe is wearing old school clothes, he was not old school. He was talking about every area of your life has to be for the same goal. It doesn't matter if you're preoccupied with your hygiene on your heels of your feet. Ikvas de Mashiach. The heels of Mashiach is the lowest time in history. Oh my goodness, you're challenging my French knowledge. Serav est un véritable acteur de théâtre de constat qui est un nouveau en bras de chemise. He wears a new shirt, and what does he think he's adding to? I can understand this. C'est son doigt probablement en sérieux, mais pas pour moi. Le ne correspond pas. I'm not going to talk to this person. He's not worthy of my conversation. Sorry for being so quiet all the time. I'm listening, learning, and it's inspiring me in many ways. No one should see themselves as anything but the greatest ruler in whatever room he finds himself in. Why? Because he is entrusted with the most precious gift of all, your soul. Have a good day.